Yeah, Belarus, you are on mute.
That's sorry. Thank you so much. Sorry for that, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for be joining us today in this session of GIRA LATAM 2022. I'm really excited to be here, and the session today is about affective computing, bringing human and machines closer through emotions. So this is a really interesting session, and that's going to be delivered by Okan, who's here already. Okan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty fine, thank you. It's a very nice summer evening here in Oslo, Norway.
Yeah, that's very nice. So are you joining us from Norway, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How's the weather over there?
Right now it's been quite warm the last couple of weeks with plus 30 degrees, but now it's a little bit more normal, around 20 degrees.
And that's nice. Not too bad.
No.
Very good. Well, before to hand over to you, to your session, I just want to say thank you to the sponsor of this year of the GIRA LATAM. The sponsor is Affective Technologies. So I'm just gonna put into the chat the link if you want to know to learn a little bit more about them. But I just gonna show you also. I'm just gonna run a video about them so you can also have a look at the awesome products that they have. Okay. Great. Well, that was the Affective Technologies video. So that's awesome company too. So thank you to them for being sponsoring this GIRA LATAM. So, Okan, if you are ready, I can just hand over to you. You have already your presentation, so I'm just gonna add to the screen. There it is. So, are you ready to start?
Yes.
Perfect. So the stage is all yours. So everybody, before that, if you have any questions during the session, just type them on the chat, and we will let Okan know about that. Okay. So enjoy the session.
Thank you so much. So first of all, welcome everyone to my session here on the 6th edition of the GIRA Online Speaker LATAM conference. So I'm going to be talking about affective computing, how we can bring humans and machines closer through emotions. And in an effort to be a little bit more inclusive, I've also used an automatic translation service from Microsoft so that we can get an automatic translation from English to Spanish, as that you can see here in the slide here. But before we start, I'm just going to give you a little bit more background information here about me. So my name is Håkan Silvernagel. I work as a manager for AI and big data at Miles, a Norwegian consultancy company. And my background is in human-machine interfaces for process automation and robotics. And I also have a master's degree in electrical engineering and also a master's degree in behavior science. So I'm both interested in, the pure technical parts, but also in the more human aspects like behavior science and psychology. And that's also sort of part of the background to why I'm having this speech here tonight. I'm quite involved in the local user community here in Oslo. So I'm a part of the organizing committee for the Norwegian.net user group. I'm also part of Oslo AI, which is an AI-focused user group. And I'm also running an online AI school called AI42, together with two other Microsoft AI MVPs, Eve Pardy and Gosia Borseka. And I'm also running the Azure User Group Sweden, which is a virtual user group, together with Jonah Anderson, who is an Azure MVP in Sweden. And I am a Microsoft MVP in AI, and I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. And if you want to know more about me, you can find all the links to my social handles on this slide. For tonight is affective computing. So what is affective computing? Well, a short explanation is that affective computing is the human side of artificial intelligence. But a little bit longer definition is that this is the study and development of systems and devices that can recognize, interpret, process, and simulate human effects. And that is what we call emotions. So basically, this is how can we use emotions in order to have a better interaction both with machines, but also with ourselves, humans to humans. So in order for us to understand this a little bit better, I'm going to go through a little bit about the background and the theories that we know from psychology about what is actually an emotion. So in psychology, we can differentiate between three different things: emotions, feelings, and mood and affects. So emotions, they are fast automatic responses, and they are also temporary, and it's a reaction to stressors. And emotions are common to all people. Then we have feelings. So with feelings, we need to involve our cognitive awareness. So that means that we are aware of our environment and aware of our emotions. And it also involves a thought process. And feelings is a much more long-lasting process than emotions. And then finally, we have affect and mood. And this is when we mix feelings and emotions together. So affect is a more complex scenario, and it could also be long-lasting. So now I'm going to go through some of the theories of emotions that we have had throughout history, the history of psychology. So I'm going to go through the James Lange theory of emotion, the Cannon-Bud theory, Schachter-Singer, and then finally Lazarus theory of emotion. But our first theory of emotion is the James Lange theory of emotion. This theory comes from the 1880. So what James Lange said was that we see an external stimuli, and this will lead to physiological reaction. And our emotional reaction is dependent on how we interpret this physiological reaction. So an example here is, imagine you're out in the woods, and then you see a grizzly bear. Then you will have a physiological reaction. Your body will start to tremble and your heart will start to race. And according to the James Lange theory of emotion, we will interpret this physiological response, and then we will conclude that we are frightened. So this means that you're not trembling because you're frightened. According to this theory, you feel frightened because you're trembling. But we can quickly realize that there is something a little bit wrong with this theory, because if this theory would be right, then we would need to have like a physical interaction for all the different kind of feelings that we can feel. And that's not really the case here. So a little bit later on in history, there was a challenge to this theory by Cannon and Bud in the 1920s. So Cannon and Bud, they said that we feel emotions and the physiological response simultaneously. And then in the brain, there will be a signal that will result in a physiological reaction. So for example, you see a snake, and then what will happen is there will be a signal so that you will be feeling afraid and you begin to tremble. The thing here is that people will experience the same physiological response to different types of emotions. So for example, sweating and increased heartbeat, respirations, they are all common for both for fear, for excitement, and for anger. And in this theory, the emotion and the physiological response will occur independent of each other. And if we go all the way to the 1960s, we have something called the two-factor theory of emotions, or the cognitive theory of emotion. And in this theory, they focus on the interaction between two factors, the physiological response and also our cognitive labeling of that response. So an example here is if you're alone in the parking lot and you walk towards your car, and then you see a strange man appear and he approaches you fast. So what will happen is this. first you see a strange man appearing, then your heart will start to race and you tremble, and then this rapid heart rate and the trembling, they are caused by fear. So this is where we have our cognitive labeling, and then you will conclude that you're actually feeling frightened. And then finally, we have the cognitive appraisal theory from Lazarus in the 1980s. So what happens here is we do a primary cognitive appraisal. So that basically means, what does this situation mean? So it could be that this is not important, it could be that this is good, but it could also be that this is very stressful. Then after our primary cognitive appraisal, we do a secondary appraisal. This could be a positive appraisal. You can say that I can do it if I do my best, or if this will fail, I will try another method instead. Or you could have a negative appraisal. Then you say that I can't do this, I know I will fail, I won't even try because my chances are too low. So again, an example here is you see a bear in the woods, and your primary appraisal is, this is very stressful. And then you can have a secondary appraisal, but I can escape. So here we have an emotional experience of fear and the physiological response. So now, when we know a little bit more about what an emotion actually is, then we can talk about how do we do in order to measure emotions. In order for us to understand this, we have to go back to the late 1800s. There was a person called Charles Darwin. He wrote a book called The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals. And in this book, he claimed that emotions are universal across the human species. And he also claimed that the emotions actually have an evolutionary history. And a little bit later on in the 1860s, we had a French physician called Duchenne, and he wrote a book called The Physiology of Movements. And what he wanted to do, he wanted to study facial expressions and see if he could couple a facial expression with an emotion. So in order for him to do this, what he did was that he had his patients, and then he used an electrical probe, and then he induced a weak current in the facial muscles of his patients. And then he photographed these different kind of expressions, as you can see here on this slide. So by doing this, he found 60 discrete emotions that he was describing here in his book. And if we fast forward another 100 years, there was an American psychologist called Paul Ekman. He conducted studies where he wanted to see about facial expressions and emotions. So what he did was he traveled to Papua New Guinea to study facial expressions, and he found an isolated tribe, and he found evidence that facial expressions and emotions are actually universal, exactly as Darwin had said a couple of hundred years before. And what Paul Ekman also did was he made something called an atlas of human facial expressions. And this atlas is still in use today when we want to use it in behavioral studies. So this is a standardized set for how we can do in order to study facial expressions. So we can see some of the facial expressions here in this slide here. And in addition, he also performed studies in various cultures and found that there actually is a set of emotions that are universal across all cultures. And now we know a little bit more about emotions here. So how do we actually detect the emotions? So there are three main ways for emotion detection. So the first way is through facial and bodily expressions. So then we need to study the face and the body. And in this picture, you can see what we call the universal emotions here, which are 9 different emotions. But we can also study the speech. We can study the tone, the intonation, the pausation, or the rhythm of a speaker. And we can also use physiology-based measures. We can measure the EEG, we can measure heart rate, skin conductance, or the fMRI. So now when we know a little bit more about both about emotions and how we can measure emotions, then we can start to get into the subject of affective computing. So affective computing started in the 1990s. There was a researcher at the MIT Media Lab called Rosalind Picard, and she wrote and published a book called Affective Computing. And by doing so, she started a whole new field of research. And by now, it has its own IEEE proceedings, as well as international conferences and multiple research groups in various parts of the world. And what she said here in her book was that we should be able to sense the emotional state of the user by using sensor, by using cameras, using microphones, but also using machine learning, using speech recognition, gesture recognition, image recognition, and so on. But due to the state of AI and machine learning at that time in the 1990s, it wasn't so successful. But as time has progressed, we've seen an increase in all of these different factors in the sensor, in the possibilities for machine learning, and so on. So it's been much more popular now in recent days. So we could think a little bit about what kind of technologies do we need in order to be able to detect these emotions by using machines. So we need to have smart sensors that can enable a real-time data flow. You also need to be able to handle large amounts of data, both storage and processing. And we want to have machine learning algorithms so that we can be able to make sense of all of this data. And finally, we want to have services so that we as developers can use these services in our own applications. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of these services, which is the face detection API from the Microsoft Cognitive Services. But I should also say that all of the larger cloud providers has services that we can use. So this is an example here from Microsoft. So they have an emotion API where we can analyze pictures and we can get back an emotion profile, as you can see here. But in addition, we also have Amazon. Amazon has something called the Amazon Recognition. IBM has an emotion analysis API. And we also have other types of APIs in order to analyze the emotional content, both of speech, so that we can reply accordingly. So now I'm going to show you a quick demo here of how we can do this face detection by using the Azure Cognitive Services. So let me switch over here to my browser. So what we have here is we have a set of pictures. So we have this picture and then of a child, and we have woman, and then we have here a man and a child. And then what we can do here is we can create a resource here in the Azure portal. We can search here for face. So we can create a face resource. So here in the face resource, you define your subscription, your resource group, your region, what is the name, and what is the pricing tier, and so on. So I have already done this for us. And what we then get back is we will get back here a console, a test console here for our face API. So in this test console, we can say what is the name here of our resource, and we can specify that we want to get back some facial attributes, the emotion facial face attributes from our picture. And then we need to provide the subscription key. And then finally here we can add an URL here to a picture. So if we start here with the child, then make a request here. And then what we get back here from the cognitive service here is first we get the face rectangle where they have detected that there is a face. And then we also get back an emotion analysis here. So we can see here that it's 80% that he should look surprised, and he looks actually quite surprised. And then we can also check on the second picture here. So if we switch this thing over, then we can see, again, we get the facial rectangle where they have identified that we have a face. And then we get this face emotion attributes here. And then we can see here that by 89.9%, it is the disgust is the feeling that she is experiencing. And that could probably be right. And what will happen now here when we actually have two persons here in the same picture? So we can go back here and we can change our image. Yes. Then we send here, then we can see here that we actually get two face rectangles here because we have two faces in the picture. So you can see that the first face is surprise, and then the second face is also surprise. And that could probably be right here. So that's just a quick demo here of how we can use the face detection API or emotion analysis here through Azure. So now I'm going to go into a couple of application scenarios where we can use these type of technologies. So our first application scenario here is in retail. So in the retail, you can imagine that we have a store that we have equipped with cameras that can register the facial expressions of the customers in the store. And then they can determine the emotions of this customer so that the staff can use this information in order to enhance the service and give a better experience to the customer. We can also think about the medical field. So in the medical field, you could use physiological measures to determine the patient's emotional state, and then you will be able to reduce both the stress, among other things, and the medical team would be able to respond much quicker to the needs of the patients. And we can also think about the education sector. So in education, the teacher could use cameras to detect the emotions of the students through the facial expression. And if the majority of the students are feeling bored, then the teacher could change his method of teaching. And this could also be applied in an online setting where we could make use of web camera in order to measure the emotions of the remote students. And finally, we have an example here from the social field. So one problem here in large part of the Western world is that we have a growing population of elderly people, but we don't have enough of workers that can aid these elderly people in their daily life. So in Japan, there have been experiments using robots to socialize with the elderly people. And these robots are using both facial recognition, speech and tone evaluation, and also physiological measures to adjust the behavior towards these elderly people. So now I would like to talk a little bit about what is actually in the very front line here. So we have a company called Affectiva that also stems from the MIT Media Lab. And what Affectiva says is that they claim that they have the world's largest emotion database. So they have 6 million faces across 87 countries. So they offer an emotion SDK and also an API so that we as developers can use and integrate their technology in our own products. So some example of use cases where this can be used is, for example, you can think of a virtual assistant that can recognize the emotion of the user and can provide much better service through that. Or you can also think about the personalized transportation experience. You have a self-driving car that can adjust the route, the music, and other things according to the passenger mood. So if the passengers are in a good mood, he could take the scenic route, but if he find out that the passengers are in a bad mood, he could just take the shortest path between 2 points. Could also use this in advertising. So in advertising, it's very important to be able to understand exactly at which time in an ad that it will create an emotion. So it's really important to find out, does this ad create the right emotion at the right time? And we can use these kind of technologies for that. And in addition, this has also been used for face and head tracking. So one example of that is in regular cars. You can use this in order to detect if a driver is getting drowsy. Then you can generate an alarm so he or she doesn't fall asleep and cause an accident. I would also like to talk a little bit here about Pepper. So Pepper is a robot that has been developed by the SoftBank Robotics, which is a Japanese company that is focusing on making robots that can adapt to humans. So Pepper was introduced in 2015, and what it does is that he can determine the emotions of the people around him, both by utilizing voice and face recognition, as well as body movements. And he responds by changing the color of his eyes, the tone of his voice, and also the content that is displayed on his tablet. And Pepper has been used in large bank in Japan, in Nestlé and Nescafé stores, and also in the railway in various places in Japan. And a fun fact is that as of August 2018, Pepper uses the Affectiva API for emotion recognition. So where are we actually here in regards of artificial intelligence? So some people are talking about artificial general intelligence. So that is when a machine can perform any type of intellectual tasks that we humans can do. But that's not the state where we are now. So the state where we are now is called narrow intelligence. So this is when we can have an artificial intelligence that is focusing on a specific problem solving or a specific reasoning task. So when do we actually know when we reach this artificial general intelligence? So there are some different operational definitions of artificial general intelligence. So one of them is the Turing test. So the Turing test was first described in 1950 by Alan Turing. And what it says here that it says that a program or an AI will win $1 million if it can fool half of the judges into thinking it is a human while it's interacting with them in a free-form conversation for 30 minutes and also interpreting audio-visual input. And we have also something called the coffee test. So the coffee test is, they say that an AI should be able to go into an average American house and figure out how to make coffee. And this includes identifying the coffee machine and figuring out what the different buttons do, and also finding the actual coffee in the cabinet. We also have the robot college test. So this is when a robot or an AI can enroll in a human university and take classes in the same way as humans do and also get its degree. And finally, we have the employment test. And this is where machines are actually exhibiting true human level intelligence. So they should be able to do many of the things that us humans are able to do. So what does this mean for the future here? Is this a threat or is it a hope? So let's have a look at what some famous people have said throughout history, and maybe that can give us some guidance. So first of all, we have Elon Musk. He said that with artificial intelligence, we're summoning the demon. Artificial intelligence is our biggest existential threat. And he said that in 2014. And we also had Stephen Hawking at the same time. He said that the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. It would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. Humans, who are limited by slow biological evolution, couldn't compete and would be superseded. And then we have Marvin Minsky, which is actually the father of machine learning. He said in the 1970s that once the computers get control, we might never get it back. We should survive at their sufferance And if we're lucky, they might keep us as pets. And we also had some researchers here in the 1970s, Alan Newell and Herbert Simon. They said that symbol system modeling human problem solving is the answer. We better alert the people. But the symbol systems modeling human problem wasn't really the answer here. So they didn't need to alert the people. And around some 10 years later, there was another couple of researchers that said that rule-based systems is the answer. And they argued that Japan will dominate the world due to the use of rule-based system, but that did not happen either. So there is a researcher at MIT called Max Tegmark. He has made a survey among the leading researchers in the AI and machine learning community. And what he wanted to find out is both if superhuman artificial intelligence will appear, will it be a good thing? And if that will happen, when will it actually surpass human level intelligence? So here we can see, we can divide the research community into some different groups. There is, if you ask them, will this happen in a few years? There's virtually nobody that thinks this, but will it happen in a few decades up to in 100 years? Then we can divide them into three different main groups. The Luddites, the beneficial AI movement, and the digital utopians. So the Luddites, they think this is definitely a bad thing, and the digital utopians thinks that it's definitely a good thing. And then somewhere in between, we have the beneficial AI movement. And then we also have a group that we can call the techno-skeptics. They believe that this will not happen between 100 or 300 years, or maybe never. But regardless when this will happen or not, it's important here to take into account ethics when we're talking about AI. So now I want to talk a little bit here about ethical implications. But before I start that, I will just take some water. So we have here a test or an experiment called the moral machine. So this is a test that has been administered by the MIT Media Lab and has been launched in 2014. And by now there's millions of people in several hundred countries that has been through this test. And what this test is about is that you have a situation here, you have a self-driving car that is approaching a zebra crossing, and there are some individuals that are crossing this zebra crossing. So the question is, what should the self-driving car do? Should it prioritize humans or pets? Should it prioritize its own passengers or the pedestrians? Should it prioritize more lives or few lives, women over men, young over old, and so on? And you could also think about, should the car take action or not? Because one way that this could be designed is that the car could say that, I can't really take a good decision, and he will hand over the control to a human being, for example. So what they found through all of these experiments is that there are some cultural differences. So we can see here that, for example, countries with more individualistic cultures are much more likely to spare the young people. So for example, United Kingdom and United States versus Japan and China. And we can also see that countries that are more individualistic, they're also more likely to spare more lives. United Kingdom, again, and United States versus China and Japan. And you can see if we compare how countries compare in sparing pedestrians or passengers, you can see that Japan and China is actually quite different, and United Kingdom is somewhere in the middle. So what this tells us is that it's actually quite difficult we can't really rely on that the machine learning algorithm should be able to come up with like a morally right answer. Because as we can see here, us as humans, we can't really agree across the cultures what is the moral right thing to do. So then how can we then expect that machine or a machine learning algorithm that has been developed by us should be able to come to that conclusion? So what is important here is to realize that there will always be a bias, and the bias is both based on our own culture, but it's also based on how do we do when we select the data that we're training our machine learning algorithms. And we are going to talk a little bit more about that here in our next section here. So one of the challenges here with AI is that AI can treat people unfairly. So we usually say that fairness is something that we call a social technical challenge. So we have biases both in the data sets that we're using when we train our machine learning algorithms, but we also have biases when we develop and when we deploy our machine learning algorithms. And in some instances, it could also be that we have very few data points about a specific group of people. And this leads to problems. So one of the problems that we have seen is, for example, there was an automated resume screening system. And then since women are underrepresented in tech, then that led to fewer employment opportunities for women. And we could also see in facial recognition system that there's problems with recognizing people with a particular skin tone because the algorithm has not been trained on that skin tone. And we can also see in machine translation system. So for example, if you translate a sentence, so for example, the sentence, she is a nurse, if you translate that over to gender neutral language, then it will always be she is a nurse. It will never be he is a nurse. And that's also a problem. And also in image search. So if we search for CEO, it will return images of men because that is what the algorithm has been trained on. So we can differentiate between two different types of problems here. One that we can call a quality of service harm. And an example of that is here, you have a voice recognition system that might fail to work as well for women as it does for men. Or you have something that you can call an allocation harm. That is when you have a system, for example, screening a loan or job applications that might be much better at picking a good candidate among white men than among other groups. But luckily for us, we have something, the FairLearn toolkit. So the FairLearn toolkit is both an open source toolkit that's been developed by Microsoft, and it is also integrated in the Azure machine learning suite in Azure. So here we have an example here. There is a loan decision problem here, and we want to be able to see here, we are suspecting that this is an unfair problem here. So then we can see which feature would we like to evaluate here. So then we can select gender here. And then after that, we can select how do we want to measure the performance. So then we can select, for example, accuracy as our measuring point. And then we can see this is the probability of getting a loan. So we can see that there is a disparity based on gender. So on average, 16.4% get a loan here in this example. But we can see that there are huge differences if you look at the graph on the right-hand side. We have around 21.4% of males get the loan, but only 6.35% of women will get the loan. So there's a 15% difference in disparity rate. But what we can do then is we can use this fairness toolkit, and we can create a new model where we use something called a fairness constraint. And in this case, we use something called a demographic parity. And then we can get a new selection rate, which is much more fair. So in this selection, the male will get a loan 17.1% of the time, and the female get the loan 15.5% of the time. And what we can do is we can compare our mitigated model here with our initial model, and we can see the change in disparity in the predictions and how that has affected our accuracy. So if you see here in this graph, we can see that the accuracy has been reduced from 84.4 to 82.1, but at the same time, the disparity, which was our problem, the disparity has also been reduced from 15% to 1.63%. So I think that's a very good result there. So as I said, this is already integrated with Azure Machine Learning, so you can use it out of the box here, but it's also available as an open source toolkit. So now I'm reaching here the end here of my presentation. So then I would like to just talk about something that we call collective intelligence. So collective intelligence is nothing new. It has been known for a long time that a group of people have a higher chance of achieving great results than a set of individuals. But is there a single factor that we can call collective intelligence? So a research team at MIT, they set out to study this thing, but they found that this is only a moderate correlation with the average individual intelligence. But instead, what they found was that there were three factors that they could combine into collective intelligence here. So the first factor is something called the average social perceptiveness. So the average social perceptiveness is an experiment that you can try out yourself. So what this means is that you should be able to read the emotion of another person just by looking in their eye. So you will get a set of pictures where you only have, the eye portion displayed, and then you should be able to estimate what kind of emotion is he or she experiencing. And then the second factor here is the participation in group conversation. So here the researcher found out that it's very important that you don't have a single individual which is very dominant in the group conversation. It's very important that everyone is able to speak their mind in the conversations. And finally, they found out that the proportion of women in the group has a positive effect here. So the more women, the more intelligent groups. And this is called social perceptive. This goes back to the social perceptiveness that I was talking about. So what this means is that for individuals, we need to be good at working together. We need to have a good interpersonal skills. And for computers, it means that we need to be able to design computers that can work well with people. And that's the important area here for effective computing. So I also have some references here if you want to learn more about this. So we have the book that started it, everything, called The Affective Computing by Rosalind Picard. We also have a book called The Blueprint for Effective Computing by Klaus Scherer and Tanja Benzinger. And then finally, we have the Oxford Handbook of Effective Computing. And it's been written by Calvo, De Mello, Gratch, and Kappas. So with that said, I would like to thank all of you who has been listening to my session here. And if you want to reach me, you can reach me on Twitter on this handle, Grevlis, or you can also send me an email here. But I see that we have some time left here, so I would just like to do talk a little bit more about this online AI school that I have founded here. So I have together with eParty and Gosia Borseka, we have founded an online AI school called AI42. And the reason why we did this was that we found out that it's very difficult to find, like a core curriculum or set of courses that can take you all the way from A to Z in machine learning here. So what we wanted to do is we want to create a set of courses here that can take you from complete beginner and start out with the necessary the mathematics, with the statistics, with the probability theory, and then moving on into programming languages like R, Python, and then into machine learning and deep learning, and then into the different tools that we can use like Databricks or Power BI and so on. So the way that we do this is we are streaming every second Wednesday on YouTube and on Facebook. And we are inviting industry speakers or recognized speakers that will have a presentation about this. And all of this is community-based, so that means that everything is for free. It's by the community and for the community. So if you want to know more about this, you can follow us on Instagram, you can follow us on Twitter, or you can follow us on our Facebook page. And you can find all of our previous sessions here on our YouTube channel if you scan this QR code. And if you want to find out when is our next session, you can scan the other QR code here to get to our meetup page. So thank you once again. Thank you so much. Now I'm ready to take some questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Okan. Thank you. And just let me have a look in the chat. It seems like we don't have questions at the moment, but if you don't mind, I have actually one question that I would like to ask you. And this is about regarding to the ethics that you were talking about. Is there any kind of regulations or anything that is already, approved that will regulate all of these developments, or who's going to be in charge of that, or every government should have different regulations, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the thing here is that there is actually a proposal here in the European Union called the EU Act, AI Act, and what that means is that it will have the same kind of effect that we have now on GDPR. So the GDPR is a set of regulations that will govern how we can handle personal data here. And in a similar manner, we have this EU AI Act, which will govern how we are developing our machine learning algorithms going forward. So that's an up and coming field, which is very much important and relevant right now.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you so much. Well, perfect. There is no questions then. So just I want to thank you again for taking the time and to sharing your knowledge. This is really nice. And thank you everybody for joining us today. I think this is a really good way to keep learning. And just as I can share a lot of places where you can keep reading and learning and researching. So don't be afraid to contact him, follow him in the YouTube channel and Facebook and the LinkedIn. So, and one more thing, don't forget to register to this session. There is a link on the chat that you can register, and you will also participate for a Fido key in a raffle. So, if there is anything else you want to say before we finish, okay?
No, yes, thank you so much for having me here as a speaker, and I'm looking forward to see more interesting sessions.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, once again, thank you, everybody, and see you in the next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to those who are following the stream online. And for those who are just joining now, welcome. Welcome to the GIRA LATAM to another interesting session. So this session is about Microsoft 365 security. And for that, we have the Dr. Rajesh, who is here already. How are you, Doctor?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How about Belize?
All good, all good. Thank you. Where are you joining at the moment?
Yeah, I'm joining from India.
Oh, lovely, lovely. How is the weather over there?
Yeah, yeah, it's great to be here.
Very good. Perfect. Well, would you like to give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, I will be starting with my slide deck. Yeah,
Okay,
can I share
perfect.
my slide deck, please?
Yeah, okay. Just before that, I will just thank to the sponsor of the GIRA LATAM this year. And for that, I will just run a video about them just to see a little bit about the awesome products that they have. So just a quick second, just a second. Perfect, great. So thank you to our sponsor this year, the Sfitian Technologies. So I will just post on the chat a link for you, for everybody who is watching, to register to this session. And you can also have the chance to win some prizes from these Sfitian Technologies. So perfect. I will just share your screen here. That's
Yeah,
perfect. Just a second. I think it's not ready yet. I will try one more time. Just 1 second. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Perfect. So are you ready to go, Dr. Rajesh?
yes, please. Is my screen
Okay.
visible?
It is visible. If you want to just, play, we'll be ready. At the
Yeah,
moment, I can see just the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
PowerPoint.
yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Perfect.
So,
Okay.
thank you for your nice introduction, and yeah.
Thank you.
So,
The stage is all yours.
yeah, thank you. So, welcome participants to this GIRA Online Speakers Latin America event, and I'm going to speak about Microsoft 365 security. So I want to thank all the organizers for giving me this opportunity. So yeah, I was asked to give my introduction. So I am Dr. Kevin Rajesh. I am working as a subject matter expert at CloudNet, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and my current designation is subject matter expert at CloudNet. So I'm a Microsoft 365 security certified professional. Apart from that, I have various other certifications. You can see my badges. So I have acquired them within a short amount of time, 3 to 4 months. So my cloud journey started after my PhD submission, and now I am here. So yeah, I have hands-on experience on Azure security, identity and access management, information protection, Microsoft 365 Admin Center, Defender Suite, Microsoft Cloud App Security, and other security operations. So I'm specialized in delivering customized training based on customer and business needs, corporate, online, and classroom technical training. So I'm a technology enthusiast and passionate trainer and empathic observer towards the trending technologies with demonstrated skills in Microsoft 365 security, Azure AI, and deep learning. And yeah, I have 16 plus years of experience into training and have trained over 500 plus participants in my career. So I'm an active member of Computer Society of India. So I have one faculty with maximum publications in CSA Publications Awards. So my education, if I take my education details into consideration, so I have done my BTech and MTech in computer science, and as I have told, I have completed my PhD in the area of deep learning. So this is about me, and you can see all my.
Sorry, doctor.
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption, but we cannot see your screen. I think the presentation, the play presentation, must be probably in a second screen.
Yeah, just a minute.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Now I'm able to see the screen in the presentation.
Yeah, because now I can see like the PowerPoint, the full screen of PowerPoint, but we wasn't able to see your details on the screen. I think when you press play, probably it's going to another screen in your computer.
Are you able to see my picture?
Yeah, now I can see. Yeah.
Now is it visible? So that is what I have shown till now.
Yeah, now it is visible, but before it wasn't. I think, when you play the presentation, sometimes it goes to the other second screen when you have
Okay.
two
Now
screens.
Yeah. Let me test it now. So I will play it now. So let us see what happens.
Mhm.
Yeah. So now is my screen visible?
Not yet. I mean, we still seeing the PowerPoint, but all of your details looks very small because we can see only the PowerPoint.
Oh.
We can see the
No.
slides. No, not yet. Do you want maybe just restart the PowerPoint or just maybe check the play settings?
Yeah. Just a minute. I will check.
Yeah, no problem. Take your time. In the meantime, I will remind everybody to register. I will just post and now for everyone who is attending this session. Don't forget to register. It's very important because you can win a prize from this VPN Technologies, our sponsor this year. So don't
Yeah.
forget to register.
Yeah. Now is it visible?
Yeah, perfect. I let you go. Yeah, that's okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Now it's okay. No, the font size and all are they okay?
Yeah, we can see now everything. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So for those who missed my introduction, once again, in short, I will be discussing about myself. So yeah, I'm the Microsoft certified trainer, and I'm subject matter expert at CloudNet. So I have hands-on experience on all the technologies mentioned, and yeah, I'm into Microsoft 365 security, Azure AI, and deep learning. So I have 16 years of experience and trained over 500 plus participants. So I have done my BTech and MTech in computer science and completed my PhD in the area of deep learning. So yeah, please let me know whenever there is an issue with my screen and audio. Yeah, I will rectify it. So these are the badges that I have acquired, and these are the certifications that I have done. So my total work experience is 16 plus years, as mentioned, and I have delivered trainings for 40 plus corporate batches. They all belong to Fortune 500 companies and universities, and have served various clients like Microsoft, TCS, Infosys, HCL, Wipro, Deloitte, Smart Cargo, and other Fortune 500 companies. So this is the gist of my corporate trainings. So yeah, you can see these are the trainings that I have given: MS 500, SC 400, Microsoft 365 fundamentals, and SC 900, and Azure data and AI fundamentals. So this is in short about me. And as I told, I am working in the company called Big CloudNet as subject matter expert. Yeah. So whenever I start my training, or whenever I give a session, I start with a nice quote. So motivational quote. So this is my quote for today. So knowledge has a beginning but no end. So if you take the present Microsoft Azure learning into consideration, so there are certain courses like SE 100. So I will be writing them. So I'm using my pen. Is my writing visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah,
Dr.
is my screen visible, please?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Yeah. So we have courses like SE100, SE200, SE300, SE400. This is all related to security only, I'm telling you. This is Azure security related courses. And we have MS 900, Microsoft security related courses. So MS 500. So that's what I wanted to tell, that there is a beginning for everything, but there is no end. When you take the Microsoft Azure, that too security domain into consideration, these are the courses that are very, what we say, in demand courses, and uh, most of them I am got certified in, and lot more to write. But if I go on writing the courses, so there will be no end for that. So this is only relevant to Microsoft Azure. If you take Amazon, if you take Alibaba Cloud, if you take Google Cloud, so there will be n number of courses. So yeah, we have to be motivated, we have to be charged to learn the things. So that is what I wanted to tell. Yeah. So when it comes to the analysis part, so I just wanted to motivate all my participants towards the present trend. According to the Gartner report, 85% of organizations worldwide will adopt the cloud first strategy by 2025. So my dear participants, have a look towards this. So I just wanted to tell you all that if you are learning cloud technology, or if you are interested to learn about cloud technology, so you have a bright future. So in near future, you will be getting much more opportunities, and the global technology services revenues are expected to reach $650 billion by 2025, with cloud and digital services accounting for roughly 60% of this total. So this is what is the present report, Gartner report, which is recognized worldwide. And the popular cloud models are 34% of firms are on hybrid cloud model. You all know hybrid cloud model means both the public cloud and private cloud will be used. And 68% of small firms indicate the use of public cloud, and 28% using public cloud presently, and 52% they are more interested towards infrastructure as a service, and 44% they are towards the platform as service, and 79% are already using software as a service. So this is what is the analysis saying now. So we are very much into the cloud, and if you are not into the cloud, just make a decision today itself and start learning the technology. Yeah, before going into this topic of the day, yeah, just I wanted to share something with you all. So I have introduced myself, so I just wanted to know about you all. So I have designed a participant status form, so I just wanted to share. So can I share something with participants? Yeah,
Sorry,
so
doctor.
this
I
is
think
the
we.
form I wanted to share with my participants. So I just wanted to collect the information of the participants.
I'm sorry,
Can I
doctor.
share
We
the
still
form with
not
the participants?
able to see your screen again.
Yeah. Can you share the link with the participants, please?
Yep, I will put it on the chat. No problem.
Yeah, please put it in the chat. Yeah. So please fill this form. I just wanted to know your details. So who has joined my session, and what are your details? Just as I introduce myself, I just wanted to know about you all. Okay, so that's great. So please fill that form, and once again I will start sharing my screen. Yeah, is my screen visible completely?
Yes, it is now. Yeah.
So I hope the participants are filling that form. Yeah, that's great. So today's agenda, I will be discussing about threat vectors and data breaches, security strategy and principles, security solutions for Microsoft 365, data loss prevention, and secure score. So you all know that after COVID, everything has changed. So we are all working from home. So whenever we used to go to the office, we used to give our thumb impressions, we used to give our facial recognition check and all. But now we are all in the world of work from home, and what is the primary what we say check done by the organizations? That is nothing but identity. So identity has become one of the primary check for any organization. So what do you think is identity is? Yeah, so you can post your answers in the chat box. So identity is nothing but your name, your email id, your password. So that is what is used by your organization to recognize you. So whenever I join my organization in the morning through my laptop from my home, so I give my details like my mail id and password. So that is how I am authenticated, and after that my organization will decide, so like what level of access I have with my organization. I am the subject matter expert in my organization, so I have assigned tasks. So according to my role, I will be accessing the resources of my organization. So in this scenario of working model, so there is a lot of scope for the threat and the data breaches to happen. So you all know threat means what in general terminology. Also, threat is nothing but it's an indication of an attack to happen, right? So we have to be very careful about those threats and data breaches. So there is always a chance of data theft to happen within the organization. So we have to be very careful with that situation. So I will be discussing about them, and I will be discussing about the security strategies and principles, security solutions for Microsoft 365, data loss prevention, and secure score. Yeah, so coming to threat vectors and data breaches. Yeah, so before that, I just wanted to tell you all that we are discussing about Microsoft 365 security. So we should know all the Microsoft 365's products. So you all know the Microsoft 365 products are Outlook. So Outlook we mainly use for email purpose. So kindly bear with my handwriting. So I'm writing with digital pen. So we all use Outlook, and we use Teams. So Teams are mainly used to, Microsoft Teams is mainly used to have online meetings. So we have Yammer. So if you are aware of Yammer, you can post it in your chat box. So Yammer is like a social networking site. So it's like a Facebook within the organization. So people, they celebrate their achievements whenever there is a birthday, whenever there is a person getting a certificate. They post their achievements in the social networking site of the organization, and we get congratulation messages and all. So that is what is Yammer is. And we have OneDrive. We have OneDrive. Yeah. So this is for the storage purpose. Okay. So similarly, we have so many what we say Microsoft 365 products. So those are the Microsoft 365 products, and I hope you are all aware of them. So we have the threat vector. It's nothing but a path or a means by which a hacker or threat actor can gain access to a target. So the target can be anything of value to the hacker. So we have the external attackers and malicious insiders. So who is the external attacker? A person working outside of the organization and wanting to do something wrong for the organization. So they are all outside the boundary of the organization, and there is a malicious insider also who is working within the organization and trying to do something harm for the organization. So the malicious insider is more troublesome when compared to the external attacker. So we have a kill chain scenario. So this kill chain scenario mainly discusses about the series of events that happen within the organization when the attacker enters into the organization and tries to do some malicious activities. So are you all aware of Mitre attack framework? So if yes, you can post it in the chat box. So I will be showing you that link. So I will be showing you the link. So just Mitre attack framework. So yeah, if you see this Mitre attack framework, yeah, I hope you are able to see my screen. Yeah, so this is the overall set of attacks that can happen, and you can see the series of steps mentioned, and individually there are set of attacks within that, right? So there are so many techniques individually mentioned for each attack, right? So you can just go through this website and have a look towards all these series of events and the attacks that are mentioned. This is a popular attack framework in the security domain, so have a look towards it, right? So I'll be speaking about the breached account, elevation of privilege, data exfiltration, and data deletion, right? So yeah, one by one I will speak in the coming slides. So here you can see, yeah, just I'm enabling my pen. See how the working scenario changed. Previously, we all used to work from office, that is on-premises location, and slowly we have moved into like cloud environment. That is there we have the identity device management production coming into the picture, and then we are now in a situation like both the cloud environment and on premises together are clubbed, and there are some requirements where we need both these to work together. Hybrid data is much more difficult to protect. So I just wanted to tell, data is gold for the organization, and that too customer data is very, very crucial for the organization. We need to protect it, right? So I just want to discuss some of the attacks. So phishing attack, you all might be knowing about this phishing attack. So this is an attack related to your email. So email means when it comes to Microsoft 365, it's all about Outlook. So that's the reason why I have told the Microsoft 365 products at the beginning. So our session is all about Microsoft 365 security. So that's the reason why I'm discussing all these attacks. So phishing attack means nothing but it's an attack where you will receive an email, and that email will look to be an authorized email, but that is from a malicious attacker whose intention is to do some wrong for the organization, create trouble for you. So the attacker will create a sense of emergency and try to gain some advantage from your side, and you can see the phishing mails will look like this. They will share one link, and that link will be redirecting you to a location where you will be asked to give your bank username and password, and try to grab all your sensitive information. So I hope you all know about the sensitive information. So I will write here. So sensitive information is the crucial data that should not be shared with others. So sensitive information, I'm just writing here. So what happens here in this sensitive information is they all relate to your bank account credentials, your Aadhaar card number, your PAN card number, right? So whatever is very much private to you will be gathered by the attacker and will be wrongly utilized by the attacker. So that is what happens in the phishing attack. But if you see clearly, these kind of mails can be easily traced out. So this mail ID, if you see, this doesn't look genuine. So there will be no mail ID like accounts@outlook.com. If you read carefully these kind of mails, you can plot the attacker. But if you are in a sense of hurriness, or else if you ignore the things and just are not worried about the security aspects, then you will definitely fall into the trap generated by the attacker, right? So we have to be very careful in these kind of situations. So phishing attacks often happen in the working environment. And we have spoofing. So spoofing is like more dangerous. Here you will be receiving an email as if the email is sent by your CEO, right? So there you will be targeted much more than the phishing attack, and it will be done based on the research by the attacker. So there you will be you will be more in more trouble, and you have to be very cautious regarding these spoofing attacks. So it's like an attacker attacking you as if he or she is the CEO of your company or manager of you. And do you ever receive mails like I'm in a sense of hurriness, just credit some amount into my account, later on I will give it to you? So do you receive these kind of mails in your organization? I think your manager or your CEO will never do these kind of things, but in these spoofing attacks they do happen. So we have to be very careful, right? So we have spam and malware attacks also. So these are all the attacks related to email only. So spamming, you all know, if somebody unknown to you is sending you the emails and repeatedly sending you the email and filling your mailbox, so that is nothing but spam. And they don't do any harm, but they simply try to catch your attention, waste your time, and eat your memory, email memory. And malware, they can cause great harm to your organization. So software and malware, they are the exact opposite terms. So software is mainly for the purpose of doing something good for the people, something good for the organization. Set of instructions written to do some good for the organization. But if you take malware, it's exactly opposite of software. It is written for the for doing some bad for the organization, right? So malware is also often received in email as either an attachment or any embedded link. So in these kind of sessions, in my day-to-day training activities, I often caution the people to be very secure, because we are in the world of threats. And after this COVID-19, these kind of threats have increased much more, right? So there are stages of malware attack also. You can see in the slide, the attachment or website you visit that is infected. So stage 1, you will be navigating to a website that is infected, and stage 2 is delivering this payload. Yeah, and as I told in the initial slide, there is an account breach attack also, where the user account is compromised. You can take my example only. I am working in an organization, so my account will be compromised, and the attacker will be accessing my organization network resources with my mail ID. And definitely we have to impose the multi-factor authentication. So I hope you all know about multi-factor authentication. It's like double check. So we all are using this multi-factor authentication. So once you are authenticated with your email and password, later on you will be double checked by OTP, right? One-time password will be sent to your mobile phone, and you have to enter that code. After entering that code, you will be authenticated. That means your mobile device will be integrated with your organization, right? So that is what is one-time password is. And yeah, so you have to protect password cracking attempts also. So password cracking is nothing but a brute force attack, where the attacker will be guessing so many passwords, and he or she will try to know the password with assumptions. So that is the reason why you never go for weak passwords. If you type in the Google weak passwords of 2021, please do that. You will get so many uh, passwords that the attacker will try to enter and gain the advantage. So never go with passwords which are related to your family members uh, and your pets and whatever you relate to, because the attacker is very much close to you and is very near to you also sometimes. So they know everything about you. So we have to be very careful. Yeah. So elevation of privilege. So that's what I wanted to tell you. So once the attacker breaches my account, I'm the subject matter expert in my organization. So definitely the attacker will try to elevate the privilege. That means they will try to be my manager's role. They will try to acquire my manager's role. Once they acquire the manager's role, they will try to acquire the CEO's role. So they want to move in the organization in such a way that they get the highest admin role privileges and do various malicious events within the organization, right? So they will not be satisfied with the account they breach. So the attacker will try to gain much more privileges and try to do bad things within the organization in terms of maybe grabbing the data or doing some attacks that relate to the crucial information of the organization. Yeah, data exfiltration is the unauthorized retrieval of data from a computer service. So this is one more attack that is happening after COVID-19. So because work from home is going on, so people are working from various locations. So these account breaches and violation of privilege will be the first step in protecting your data. When you want to protect yourself, then again we have to protect from the unauthorized retrieval of data also. There is a pandemic going on in the present scenario. You all know the COVID pandemic is already going on, right? It's still continuing. There is another pandemic going on, that is ransomware pandemic. So what do you mean by ransomware pandemic? Ransomware is nothing but the attacker will try to get the access of your system, try to encrypt all the files. I hope you all know about encryption. Is nothing but converting the content into a secret form. So your files will be encrypted. So the next day you log in into your system, you will not be able to access your files. And you will get a call from the attacker, and they will charge money for decrypting. That means converting the unreadable form to the readable form. So this kind of encryption pandemic is going on presently. So please be careful. Yeah. So there is another attack going on, that is data deletion and spillage also. So the attacker will delete the data. So as I told, data is gold. So we have to be very careful, and recovery becomes very, very difficult when the customer data, if your data related to bank is deleted, now you will be in the problem zone. You will not know what is your account details is, how much money is there. So yeah, once check, is my screen visible and am I audible?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Yeah, is my
Yeah.
screen visible? Am I audible?
Yeah, it is visible. Yes,
Yeah. Thank you so much for your confirmation.
no problem.
Yeah. So we have the ransomware attack. Already I mentioned about it. So there the encryption of data goes on, and the attacker will be demanding the payments, and they will charge for decrypting the data. So all these are dangerous attacks, and we have to be very careful. and they all relate to the system, they all relate to the email, they all relate to OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams. So that is the reason why the topic of the discussion is Microsoft 365 security. Now I'm coming to the actual point. So if you are very much interested to learn Microsoft Azure, so we have the Microsoft 365 Defender, under which we have the Microsoft Defender for Office 365, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Microsoft Cloud App Security, and Microsoft Defender for Identity. So to protect ourselves from all these attacks that I have discussed, these are the 4 important resources from the Microsoft 365 Defender that we have to use. I will show you all the demonstrations quickly because we have less amount of time. If I go on speaking, I speak for 4 days continuously. In my normal trainings, it will be 5 days, 6 days also. But if I go on speaking like this, so you may not feel comfortable now. But yeah, I will just consolidate the things and I will let you know the details. And I will share you my details, and you can be in touch with me. You can clarify your doubts also. Yeah. So I will be discussing all these details now in brief, right? So if you are very much interested in security, I will show you the job opportunities of security also. Yeah, to motivate you all, I will show you. Yeah. So what are the job opportunities? I will open my account and show you how much. Yeah. So if you want to learn all these things, you should be motivated. That is the reason why I'm showing you this. I'm going to my Creditly account where all my certifications will be there. I'm just signing in. Yeah. So just to motivate you all, I want to show you the job opportunities presently. So these are all my certifications. If you see, this is the certification, topmost certification in the Microsoft security. That is Microsoft 365 Certified Security Administrator Associate, acquired by me. So if you see the jobs, so you can see the person who acquires this certification will be eligible to apply for all these jobs. You can see Azure Solutions Architect. There are how many postings? 322 postings. So there are so many opportunities. Solutions Architect, there are 262 job opportunities. Information Technology Manager, 81 postings. So there are much more. So I wanted to tell you all that, yeah, you can apply for all these jobs, and you can see the salary ranges also, right? And you have the employers like Microsoft, Accenture, Amazon. So topmost companies will pick you just in fraction of time when you do these certifications. So that is the reason why you have to be very good in Microsoft Azure, and you have to do all these advanced certifications. Yeah, you have to dedicate your time, then you will definitely do this. Yeah. So I am a artificial intelligence person. Now I am doing all the security certifications. So why can't you do that? You can usually do that. Yeah. Right. So now when it comes to my topic, just motivated you with all the job opportunities. So now I am coming to my track. So Microsoft Defender for Office 365, this will be mainly safeguarding your organization against email messages that link to the threats posted by email messages, links, and collaboration tools. So you will be writing various threat protection policies. I will show you how to write a policy also. You will be able to see various reports, security reports, by using this tool, where you will come to one conclusion how well your organization is performing. I will show you. Don't worry about all these things in the demonstration. And you can do threat investigation and response capabilities. So if anything happens, if robbery happens, we do investigation. Similarly, if there is an attack, we do the threat investigation and we try to respond to the situation. And we go for automated investigation and response capabilities also. Sometimes, instead of manual intervention, the system itself will take the investigation on its own and do find the solution. So that is what is the advantage of Microsoft Defender for Office 365. It mainly relates to email message attacks and the malicious URLs and the collaboration tools. Now we have Microsoft Cloud App Security. So Microsoft Cloud App Security is a cloud access security broker. So it's a CASB, right? So what is this CASB is? So when it comes to this Microsoft Cloud App Security, let me finish it write it clearly. Yeah. So this Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps is a cloud access security broker that supports various deployment modes, including log collection, API connectors, and reverse proxy. If I tell like this, you will not understand anything. So it's all related to your apps. So you are all using various apps. So within your organization, there will be various apps, HR related apps, your salary related apps. So there is always a chance of shadow IT to be introduced within your organization. What do you mean by shadow IT? See, this shadow IT is nothing but unapproved apps. So your CEO, your manager will be approving certain apps. I told no HR apps and maybe your details, personal details related app. So these are all the approved apps. So we have an app in our organization called to be KK app. So there we enter all our personal details, our Aadhaar card details, our PAN card details, our credentials in the sense our phone details, our bank related numbers, account numbers and all. So this is an approved app by our HR director. So we are very much confident enough to use these kind of apps. But this shadow IT is the one which is not approved by your CEO or your HR director, right? So somebody who has attacked your organization will introduce these apps and try to create problem within the organization. So we have to be very careful with these kind of apps, and Microsoft Cloud App Security will try to discover and control the use of those shadow IT and protect your sensitive information anywhere in the cloud, protect against cyber threats and anomalies. And what is the compliance of your cloud apps? What do you mean by compliance? So now you are living in certain country, so there will be rules and regulations of that country. So till now this COVID-19 regulations were there. We were not coming out of the house after a certain time as per the government regulations. So that was the rule imposed. Similarly, organization also has some rules and regulations. So for every app to be introduced within the organization, there will be certain rules and regulations. So those rules should be followed, regulations should be followed, right? So these are the things we have to be very careful, and this Microsoft Cloud App Security will definitely provide all these what we say functionalities to be secured within the organization, right? And we have the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So this Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is mainly using the following combination of technology into Windows 10 and Microsoft robust cloud services. See, what is an endpoint? It can be your mobile device, it can be your laptop. There are so many devices getting integrated with your office environment, with your organization environment. As I told, we are in the work from home scenario, and our laptops, our mobile devices, whatnot, everything which is acceptable by the organization, those devices are getting integrated. So definitely those devices behavior should be tracked, and we have to do analysis. For that we will be using machine learning, artificial intelligence tools, like how the devices are behaving, where from you are logging in. See, if I logging in from India today at maybe 12 o'clock IST, and immediately after 15 minutes I log in from Canada, and after 15 minutes I log in from some other location, is it practically possible? It's not practically possible. That means something suspicious is happening from my side. So those things should be tracked, and definitely there should be threat intelligence. It's like artificial intelligence, right, to track all these activities, malicious activities going on from the user side. So Microsoft Defender for Endpoint will be able to do all these things. Actually, I speak about all these things for one day, but in short, I'm just giving you the details for 5 minutes only. In my corporate trainings, I train all the corporates. This topic I take one day, this topic I take one day, but now I'm just confining it to 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Yeah. Now we have the Microsoft Defender for Identity. So this Microsoft Defender for Identity, as I told, identity has become the central perimeter. Now we are all working from home, so our identity is the only source for tracking us. So this Microsoft Defender for Identity mainly enables the security operation analysts and security professionals to detect advanced attacks in hybrid environments. So they mainly monitor the users, their behavior, their activities, and definitely they protect the user identities and credentials stored in Active Directory. And if anything suspicious is happening from the user side, right, that will be identified and that should be tracked. Yes. So we have to prevent data loss in 365, Microsoft 365. What do you mean by data loss? So data loss is nothing but it's like accidental sharing of the data with the unauthorized users, or else intentional sharing of the data. Sometimes I may accidentally share my sensitive information, my organization's employees related sensitive information with the outsiders, right? So that happens sometimes. Instead of one email ID, I may choose the another email ID. Accidentally, I can share it, right? There is always a chance of doing that. And there is another way, like intentionally, if the employee is leaving from the organization, if the employee is in the notice period. I hope you all know about the notice period concept. So notice period means what? The employee is leaving the organization, and before leaving the organization, we have to serve the notice. We have to serve the notice period. That means 3 to 6 months. We have to be there within the organization. We have to do all the tasks within the organization. Then we will be relieved. So during the notice period time, the employee can do certain malicious activities, share the organization details with the outsiders, sell it for the money. So these things happen, right? So how to protect the content, where to protect the content is nothing but the data loss prevention. So where we will be writing rules, right? In the rules, we will be mentioning the conditions. Condition is like a trigger. If there is a sensitive information in the email, block that mail. That is what is an action. If there is a hatred message kind of thing in the Teams chat, block that message, right? So these kind of things we can impose as rules and protect our organization from the outsiders as well as the insiders, right? So data loss prevention policy configuration, like we have to choose the information to protect, we have to name our policy, we have to choose the locations, we have to do the policy settings, and we have to review the settings. So I will show you one demonstration quickly. So till now I have discussed what are the problems, and I have given you the tools that should be used to solve that problem. And now I will be showing you the solution also, right? So in this given time, I will try to show you as much as I can. Don't worry, you can be in touch with me. I will be sharing my LinkedIn profile ID also, so you can discuss with me whenever you are free. Yeah. So is my screen visible? Is the portal visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah. So I was telling about the data loss prevention, and this is the compliance portal, and you have to enter admin.microsoft.com. Once you enter the admin.microsoft.com, then you will be asked to enter your username and password. You should be having licenses. That means either E3 or E5 license, preferably E5 license, to handle the portal and get some tasks done by the portal. For that, you have to pay certain amount. So all these things will be there in the Microsoft portal. I have acquired all the links also. I will be sharing them regarding the subscriptions and the amount charged by the Microsoft. You can see the policies. You can see there are certain policies already there, right? So US financial data, default policy for devices, GDPR policy, right? And US Health Insurance Act enhanced policy. So Australia Private Act enhanced, Australia financial data. So these templates you can use. So I will just use this Australian financial data template and create a policy. So it will take certain time to load. So you have to be patient enough because this is the Microsoft portal. Yeah. So you will get the description about all these things, like, so what this policy is going to do and where it is applying. Like it is applying at the Exchange email, SharePoint sites, OneDrive accounts, Team chat, and channel messages. So all these things you can come to know, right? And yeah, so Australian financial data. Yeah. You have the edit policy option also. Just a minute. Yeah. So already existing template I have opened. This is Australian financial data, right? You can just check what is there. So you can see the locations where you can apply this policy. This is the Exchange email, SharePoint sites, OneDrive accounts, and Team chat and channel messages. This particular policy is related to the financial data security and applies at these locations. And yeah, so you can create your own rules also. You can add your rules to the existing thing. Already there are 2 rules. So low volume of content detected Australia financial data and high volume of content. You can add your own rule also. So here if you go for rule, instead of here, I will just explain you in my custom policy. Just I'm showing you how the templates are there here. And you can test or turn on the policy. So before actually implementing the policy, you have to test it and see how the policy performs. Then only you have to turn on the policy, right? And lastly, you can review your settings. So this is how you can edit the existing policy. I have not changed anything. I have just given you the walkthrough of what is there in this particular policy. Now I will just go to the purview and create a new policy. Then you will come to know. So yeah, exploring this portal will take a lot of time. Don't worry about that. Just for the time being, watch my demonstration. You will be able to learn all these things if you spend some time. So from scratch, if you want to create a policy for preventing the data loss, you can do by this option, create policy. So yeah, you have various templates. So now I will be using the custom template, custom policy. I will be creating everything from scratch. Now you have to name the policy properly. So I'm just giving the test policy LATAM, right? But these kind of names we should not give in the real time. They should be meaningful. Yeah. So where you want to apply this policy, right? So I want all these locations to be applied. So I don't want to deselect them, right? So create or customize the advanced DLP rules. Now I will be writing the rules. So I will be creating a rule. I will be showing you how to write a rule. So RUL 1, 3, 4, 5, right? So here I will be writing condition. So content is shared from Microsoft 365. So let us go with content contains any of these, right? Add sensitive information types. So here let us take PAN number. Let us search for it. Yeah, Indian PAN number. Anything you can take. I'm just taking Indian PAN number. So I'm writing a rule for PAN number, right? So you can add other conditions also, but presently I want to add only one condition, and you can add exceptions, except if the content is shared from Microsoft 365. Is it only with the people inside my organization or with people outside my organization? I want to select people outside my organization. That means I'm creating a rule where this sensitive information is not to be shared with the outsiders of the organization. The PAN number is also sensitive information. And you have to add actions. So what action you want to take? So yeah, restrict access or encrypt the content on the Microsoft 365, restrict third-party apps, restrict access or remove on-premises files. So let us go for restricting third-party apps. So these options will be there, right? So I'm just going with the box, right? So remove external users, just randomly showing you all these things. You have to be very careful while doing all these activities, and you have options for overrides, incident reports and all. So that you have to do more, you have to learn much more things to know all these things, but presently I'm not giving like options regarding this. I just wanted to write the rule for the thing that I have mentioned. I'm just saving it, because if I go on explaining all those things, it will take a lot of time. Yeah, I'm just giving you a simple overview of how to write a data loss policy rule. So let us go for the next option. Yeah, so test it and submit it. So now you are creating the policy here. This is the custom policy you are creating for your PAN card number. You can see the new policy got created. So this is how you are protecting the data loss, right? And later on you have to publish this policy also. It will take 24 to 48 hours for this policy to be implemented within your organization and do various tasks that you have mentioned in the policy as a rule. You can see, you can detect communications for inappropriate text within the organization. You can detect communication for inappropriate images within the organization. You can monitor communications for sensitive information. You can monitor communications for conflict of interest. All these policies you can create and protect your data within the organization. Hope I am clear, right? I have given you a simple demonstration for writing a rule in the policy and implementing it. So if I talk about data loss policy, I take 1 day, but for you all, I have just kept it short and I have explained it in 10 minutes. So this is the real-time scenario example use case, right? And yeah, whatever I have explained to you, I'm showing here. And you have security score also. So instead of talking here, I will show you in the portal. All portals I have opened. I will show you what security score is. Yeah. So this is the portal. Yeah. So we have this admin center called to be security. So you have to open admin.microsoft.com. There you will have the admin centers. So these are the various admin centers. In this, you have to click the security and it will take time to open. Yes. Now, here you will see the security score of your organization, right? So mine is the trial tenant, and I have the security score as 34.76, which is not good. Below 50% security score is bad. So these are trial environment, but in your real-time environment, you will get actual thing which is happening within the organization, right? You can see the device complaint status, how many devices are there with the malware, right? How many users are there with the threat, right? So all these analysis you can see, and not only security score, right? You will have like how many are related to identity and how many are related to apps, like how many security issues are related to apps and how many are related to identity, and you can improve your score also, right? For that you have to go for the recommendation actions. So what are the recommended actions? You have to implement MFA. If you implement MFA, your security score will raise by 8.06%, right? So all these are to be implemented for you to improve your security score of your organization, right? So as a security admin, if you get the job of security admin of the organization, you will be doing all these things, right? You can apply for security admin job once you get so many certifications, and you will be doing all this job, all these tasks from your side for the organization, and you will be the most important person of the organization, because you, in your hand, the security of the organization is there. So you can explore all these things. So folks, be charged, try to learn all these things. You can turn on the user risk policies, you can turn on the sign-in risk policy. For everything you do, you will acquire certain points, certain score increase, right? So this is what is small demonstration for your Microsoft 365 Defender. And I will show you another small demonstration. Yeah. Yeah. So this is about the endpoint I was talking about. You have to log into endpoint.microsoft.com, and you have the dashboard. So all the endpoints that are connected to your organization status will be shown here. So how many Android devices got connected, how many Windows devices got connected. Presently mine is the trial tenant, so they are all 0, but in real-time environment you will get the actual data. And you can go for device enrollment, you can go for device compliance check. So all these things you can explore and you can check. And yeah, you can go for tenant administration, right? So these are all the functionalities that you can explore, right? And you can implement endpoint security by using this portal, right? You can implement all these things. You can manage your antivirus, you can manage your disk encryption, firewall, you can go for account protection, device compliance, conditional access. All these things you can check. And regarding devices, here you can explore all these things. You can go for policy sets, right? And you can write various policies here regarding the devices also, right? So yeah, you can explore all these things. You can create policies, you can see what are the various devices enrolled, what is the device configuration, what is the compliance status, by using this portal, right? So these are certain solutions that you can do from your side using these portals. The time is limited already. I have taken 1 hour of time. And yeah, so that is what I wanted to speak today in this short span of time, because these all things take a lot much of time. 4 days, 5 days of training we often do for this kind of thing. But okay, so in whatever time I have got, I try to give you all the details. Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And yeah.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. That was a very interesting session, Dr. Rajesh.
Yeah,
I think
thank
you
you.
provide a lot of information for people who is watching, even for people who might not be watching at the moment, but will watch later. It's a lot of information, so it's pretty good
Yeah,
because they can
thank
keep
you so much.
learning.
I will be sharing the feedback form. Can you kindly share with the participants? I have
Yeah.
designed a feedback form.
Okay, I will share it again that in the chat. So just 1 second.
And I will be sharing my LinkedIn profile also, so they can connect with me. And any doubt they ask, I will be replying to them. So please
Perfect.
share my LinkedIn profile. So I will be very happy to handle all the queries, because I am into this security cloud journey. So I will be handling them.
Perfect. You
And
already
whatever
put.
I thought,
I'm
whatever
sorry.
the concepts I have thought, I have gathered all the links. So kindly share with the people who are there. So all the links, these are all the Microsoft links only. Yeah.
No problem. I will just.
Thank you so much
Post
for
it.
giving me this opportunity. Yeah.
all the links are already in the chat. So for people who is watching, thank you so much, Dr. Rajesh, for joining us today and take the time to share your knowledge. So thank you for joining to the GIRA LATAM, and thank you everybody for coming to this session. So until next time, enjoy and keep learning. Perfect. Thank you so much. See you.
Thank you.